What if three ordinary words spoken with genuine sincerity at the right moment could stay with someone long after the conversation has ended? Not because they were clever or carefully rehearsed, but because they landed with enough emotional truth to leave a quiet mark. That's what we're exploring today. The psychology behind why certain words create lasting impressions, and how honesty, presence, and specificity can transform the way you connect with someone on a deeper level. Before we get into it, take a moment if you can slow your breathing down just slightly. Let your shoulders drop. Clear whatever noise is running through your mind and just be here for a few minutes. Because what we're about to talk about isn't a technique or a performance. It's a shift in the way you communicate. And that kind of shift starts with being present. Most people go into conversations trying to sound impressive, funny, or perfectly calibrated. They overthink their words to the point where the words stop feeling like theirs. But real attraction, genuine emotional connection, doesn't respond to performance. It responds to authenticity. It lives in the quiet, unguarded moments when someone says exactly what they mean and the other person can feel that it's real. The goal here isn't to give you lines. It's to help you understand why certain kinds of communication create emotional depth while everything else simply disappears. Think about the last message or conversation that actually stayed with you. Not a routine check-in, not a polite "how are you," but something that made you pause and feel something. What made it different? It was probably specific. It probably carried some warmth or emotional weight. It made you feel noticed in a way that went beyond the surface. Most daily exchanges lack all of that. They're perfectly pleasant and completely forgettable. The mind doesn't hold on to things that don't generate feeling. What it does hold on to are moments that felt real, surprising, or genuinely seen. Psychologists sometimes call this emotional anchoring, the phenomenon where a moment that produces genuine feeling gets stored differently than routine interaction. It resurfaces, it replays in quiet moments, it stays. That's the kind of communication worth learning. The first phrase worth understanding is "I want." On its face, those two words seem almost too simple to matter. But the psychological impact of expressing desire with calm, clear directness is significant. Most people hedge. They soften everything with qualifiers because they're afraid of seeming too forward, too eager, or too vulnerable. So instead of saying what they actually mean, they say things like, "Maybe we could hang out sometime, if you're ever free and not too busy." That kind of language communicates uncertainty. It asks for permission before it even makes a request. And in doing so, it drains the energy out of the moment entirely. Contrast that with something like, "I want to take you to dinner this weekend. I know a place I think you'd love." The meaning is essentially the same, but the emotional texture is completely different. One sounds like someone who isn't sure they deserve to be heard. The other sounds like someone who knows what they want, feels comfortable expressing it, and respects the other person enough to be direct with them. That kind of clarity reads as emotional maturity. It creates a sense of stability and groundedness that is genuinely attractive, not because it's a strategy, but because most people are quietly starved for interactions where someone just says what they mean. The second word is "because." It's a small connector, but what it does to a sentence is remarkable. Without it, a compliment or expression of appreciation tends to stay generic. Telling someone you enjoy talking to them is pleasant enough, but it doesn't really land anywhere specific. The moment you add "because," everything sharpens. "I enjoy talking to you because the way you think about things makes me see situations I thought I understood completely differently." Now, it isn't a general warm feeling directed vaguely at someone. It's a specific observation about a specific quality of a specific person. And that specificity is what makes people feel genuinely seen rather than simply acknowledged. This matters more than most people realize. Generic compliments are easy to give and easy to discount. They require no real attention. But when someone identifies something particular about the way you think or the way you treat people or the quality of your perspective, it signals that they were actually paying attention. And being paid genuine attention is one of the most emotionally impactful experiences a person can have in a conversation. It communicates that you're not just another interaction they're moving through. You're someone they're actually watching and appreciating. Presence, real attentiveness is naturally compelling in a way that no rehearsed line ever manages to be. The third phrase is "I appreciate." This one shifts the register entirely, and it's worth understanding why. Compliments about appearance are common. They're easy to give, frequently given, and because of that, they tend to pass through people without leaving much of a trace. Appreciation that goes deeper, that recognizes character rather than surface, carries an entirely different emotional weight. Saying something like, "I appreciate how thoughtful you are with people." It's rarer than most people realize. Acknowledges something about who someone is on the inside. It says you've been watching, not superficially, but with genuine attention, and what you've noticed is something that matters. That kind of recognition feels sincere because it can only come from someone who is actually paying attention. You can't fake noticing something specific about someone's character. Either you saw it or you didn't. And when someone feels that they've been genuinely seen in that way, it creates a sense of emotional safety and connection that goes well beyond what surface-level flattery ever produces. It also communicates something important about you, that you value substance over appearance, that you're interested in who someone actually is, and that your attention isn't just directed at the obvious. When these three elements come together naturally in a single expression, something worth noting happens. Something like, "I want to see you again because I really appreciate the kind of calm you bring to a conversation." Everything feels lighter when you're around. That's not a script. It's a complete emotional picture painted in one honest sentence. She knows what you want. She understands why. And she feels genuinely valued for something real about herself rather than something she simply happened to look like on a particular day. When a message or moment lands that way, it tends to replay. It surfaces in quiet moments. It doesn't get filed away with everything else. There's a reason this works beyond the emotional experience of it. When communication carries genuine specificity, it creates novelty because specific observations break through the numbing sameness of routine small talk. It demonstrates attentiveness, which signals real interest rather than performed interest. And perhaps most importantly, it generates a sense of emotional safety because there's no pressure behind it, no desperation, no agenda dressed up as a compliment. When someone feels safe in a conversation, they open. When they open, real connection becomes possible. Timing is everything here, and it's worth being direct about this. These aren't phrases to distribute generously throughout every interaction in the hope that something sticks. Used too frequently or too early, they stop feeling genuine and start feeling like a method. What gives them their power is precisely that they arise naturally from a real moment of connection after something meaningful has been exchanged. When you've actually noticed something worth expressing, when the context genuinely calls for it, let them come when they're true rather than when they're useful, and they'll carry real weight. Force them, and they'll sound exactly as forced as they feel. Your tone matters as much as your words. Calm and steady delivery with open body language and genuine eye contact amplifies the sincerity of what you're saying. Over-explaining dilutes it. If the other person doesn't match your energy or reciprocate, that's important information, and it deserves to be respected rather than pushed through. Attraction that lasts is built on mutuality. Real connection grows in shared comfort, not in one person working very hard while the other remains unmoved. The larger truth underneath all of this is straightforward. What makes communication memorable isn't cleverness. It isn't effort. It isn't the right formula applied at the right moment. It's emotional weight. When you speak with real presence, when you notice what's actually in front of you, and express it honestly, you become the kind of person who leaves a mark in someone's experience of a day, a week, a conversation they keep coming back to without quite knowing why. That's not manipulation. That's not performance. It's simply what happens when you're genuinely there, genuinely paying attention, and genuinely willing to say what you mean. If something in this resonated with you, share it with someone who could use a different way of thinking about how they communicate. And if you've ever had a moment where just a few words from someone stayed with you far longer than you expected, share that in the comments. Those stories are worth hearing.